What's up, everybody? It's the Liberal Loudmouth. So Daily Show put on a pretty good montage of some of the hypocrisy with right-wingers mostly. But let's take a look at this video. It's quite telling, actually.
Let's get loud for Kyle Rittenhouse.
I mean, just look at the celebration in that video of Kyle Rittenhouse, who killed two people. He shot three people and killed two of them. Now, I'm not going to get into the debate of whether it was self-defense or not. There's an argument, I think, for both sides. And this harkens back even to Daniel Perry's murder conviction that was pardoned later down in Texas when he shot a guy that was walking around with an AK-47. But just look at the confetti. Look at this. The confetti, this huge pomp and circumstance that they've created for a guy that literally killed two people, whether he thought he was doing self-defense or not. But this level of celebration for this seems pretty outrageous to me. But, I mean, just look at it again. It's crazy.
Let's get loud for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Like, this shit makes no sense.
Assassination, vigilantism, it's wrong, it's evil, it's despicable. There's no hero. Cheering for the murder of an unarmed man is beyond sick.
For anyone that sympathizes and empathizes with a murderer, that is completely upside down in our American society. There are people that need to reevaluate their inner soul and their moral compass. Yeah. There is nothing acceptable to me about that.
Wackos are treating suspected killer as a folk hero. Actual praise for the murder itself.
To sympathize with them, it's just...
Like, okay, again, it's one thing to say, okay, Kyle Rittenhouse was defending himself, but we don't need to celebrate the fact that two people lost their lives. But this is not that. What they're doing here at Turning Point USA, I mean, they are literally celebrating this man who killed these people for killing these people, because Kyle Rittenhouse is a nobody otherwise.
Disgusting.
You know, they have a Bonnie and Clyde syndrome in the DSM-IV in psychiatric treatment, and that's when some people are enamored by criminals.
You don't have the right to go out and kill somebody and take, vigilante justice into your hands. So I think it's really disturbing to people across the country as they tune in and hear, people excited and saying there's joy from this. I think it's really concerning.
Now, that's a great montage, but I want to point out, how they will claim Kyle Rittenhouse was self-defense, and I would say that there's a good argument for that. Okay, I've watched the videos. The kid looks scared shitless, okay, and we could go over the fact that he was a youth that carried a gun over into another area that he didn't live at, though he did work there, and, why are you walking around with this gun? But you apply this same situation to another case, and think about that. Kyle Rittenhouse brought a gun out to a place to patrol and to protect, right? That's what he was claiming, and he's walking around with this big-ass gun. There's somebody else that did this also.
The interviewer asks him about his weapon.
Tell us a little bit about your gun again.
It's AK-47.
Why'd you got it out tonight?
They don't let us march in the streets anymore, so got to practice some of our rights.
Cool, man. Do you feel like you don't need to use it?
Nah.
Okay, so I'm pointing this out because this guy, not unlike Kyle Rittenhouse, was carrying a weapon. He was carrying a weapon to supposedly protect other people. Whatever, you can argue one way or the other whether or not somebody should be walking down the street with a gun, but the Second Amendment has been ruled on time and time again. So him just having this weapon, it shouldn't cause alarm in this country because of the Second Amendment, right? Yet he gets shot and killed by somebody in a car who felt threatened, even though he is walking around with the gun. So in this incident, this man, Garrett Foster, he's walking around with the gun to protect and whatever, and then he happens across somebody else who sees him and gets freaked out and shoots and kills him. Now, in this case, the Daniel Perry in this case was found guilty and then later pardoned by the governor. So, again, you have Kyle Rittenhouse brings a gun into a riot situation, but he's on the other side of the riot, right? I'm protecting the city from all of these people. And then he gets freaked out by somebody that also had a gun at one point, and then a guy with a skateboard and somebody that attacked him. And he shoots them all, kills two of them. Yet in this case, with Garrett Foster, he's walking around with the gun. Somebody's driving into the crowd of people, and I guess he knocks on the window and then blam, blam. But And you go to pretty much any comment section and you'll see over and over again, well, if you're walking around with a gun and you're, knocking on windows, well, of course they're going to shoot you because they don't know what you're doing. So why was it not okay for those people to go after Kyle Rittenhouse, who's the guy walking around with the gun? Why is it, for some reason, when it comes to Republicans or people with Republican ideologies, it's okay for them to walk around with the gun? You can't be afraid of them. But if you're walking around with the gun or doing something that might be scary to somebody else, then it's okay to shoot those people. Or in the case of the other Daniel, and I don't know what's up with Daniels of the world, but let's take a look at this.
Day after day in a Manhattan courtroom covering the trial of Daniel Penny. I've read hundreds of pages of Jordan Neely's medical records and seen images of his autopsy. I've seen Penny's mother hold back tears on the stand as she vouched for her son's kindness. I've heard from witnesses, police, and the medical examiner. But as the trial comes to a close, basic questions still remain about exactly what happened on that subway train. It all comes back to these 6 minutes when Penny and Neely struggled on the floor of a subway car. Prosecutors say Neely's last voluntary movement was at this moment, 2:28 p.m. 51 seconds later, Penny let go of him. The medical examiner says Neely died a short time later from a chokehold, compression of his neck.
Okay, now you saw that. This guy kept this schizophrenic guy who was having an episode on the subway, held him in a chokehold for over 6 minutes. A chokehold for over 6 minutes. What did the guy do? He freaked people out. The only thing that Jordan Neely did was freak people out. He said, I'm going to kill everybody. I don't care. I'll go back to Rikers Island. Okay, yeah, that's kind of freaky. But he didn't actually take any actions that should or would threaten somebody on the subway. He didn't attack anybody. He just said words that freaked some of the people on the subway out. And we've met people like that. I'm sure you have. I've met several of them where you can tell very clearly that somebody is off their meds or they're kind of, they're not all there. You could usually tell, and I imagine in Jordan Neely's case, people were like, okay, this dude's, got problems. He looks mentally unstable. And generally speaking, those people who talk to themselves or sound really aggressive in those instances, they don't typically do anything. I've never, seen personally, I've seen lots of people do that, but I've never seen any of them do that and then engage in, combative behavior with other people for no reason whatsoever. So Daniel takes it upon himself to put this guy in a chokehold. Now, I do not think that Daniel meant to kill Jordan Neely. Implicit bias may have been a factor here. I can't say for sure. I don't know Daniel, but it doesn't appear on its face that he it's a black guy. Oh, I'm going to put him in a chokehold because he's black and I don't like him. I don't think that's the case at all. May he have perceived this guy as scarier because he's black? Perhaps. Studies do show that black people, especially, when confronted with white people, are viewed in much more aggressive ways, compared to other lighter skinned races. So in this case, Jordan Neely actually didn't do anything other than freak people out, which, in itself could be considered a crime. What he said, I'm sure he could have been arrested for. And Daniel put him in a over 6-minute chokehold and killed him. Now, I don't think it was murder at all. I think negligent homicide was absolutely a good verdict for that. Because here it allows, quote unquote, vigilante justice, which, just like you saw there, all these pundits are criticizing people for, praising, if you will, what Luigi Mangione did. And completely forgetting the fact that these healthcare industries are killing people to the tune of thousands a year. Thousands every year. I'm sure if you go back the last 40 years, millions have no doubt died as a result of decisions made for profit. So on one hand, if you're doing something and you're wearing a suit and tie, hey, that's okay. It's okay because you made money off of it, right? But if you gun somebody down in the street, oh God, that's so brutal. That's so brutal. How dare these people? And like Piers Morgan the other day.
Two stories about violence and vigilantes in New York City have polarized debate this week, painting a vivid picture of America's divided morality. UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was shot dead in central Manhattan, a few minutes' walk from the studio we often use to broadcast this show. The father of two's execution was met with perverse festivity, and yes, even joy. You're supposed to be on the caring, sharing left, where you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again...
We're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
This is Piers Morgan, trying to get a rise out of people, getting clickbaits, whatever. Taylor Lorenz's word choice was poor, surely. I mean, I didn't feel joy necessarily that old dude got wasted in the street, but I certainly didn't feel any sympathy. And I love how these pundits, they talk about this man had a wife. This man had kids. And right before Christmas. Like, yeah, the thousands and thousands of people that man in particular made decisions that cost those people their lives early or caused them to suffer. They had spouses and kids too. They were sons and daughters too. You don't care about them, Piers? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. Because if you wear a suit and a tie and you go to meetings and you kill people from a conference room, well, that's perfectly acceptable in society. The hypocrisy is just outrageous to me. If you celebrate the death of Brian Thompson, who killed thousands and thousands of people, that's not okay. The hypocrisy is gross. It really is gross. And I will say that, you go look at Ben Shapiro's video. I did a video about that recently where his comment section disagreed completely with what he was saying. I mean, this is not a left versus right issue, but you wouldn't know that listening to the pundits on mainstream media. Those pundits on mainstream media, the elites, if you will, want to continue to divide the left and the right. They are really, really trying really hard to stop the left and the right from coalescing on this issue, because they know the more together the left and the right is, the worse it is for them. They don't want people to come together. They need them to stay divided. And that's why it's important that you ignore these elitist pukes and do what you know to be right, which is to say we can use this moment moving forward to try and fix this broken-ass system. Because it is broken. The United States healthcare system is absolutely broken, and there are unnecessary and needless deaths of thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people every year dying from decisions that are made for profit. And society has gotten so far gone that becomes an acceptable thing. It was like, well, but the stock price went up. Sure, I killed, 300,000 people. I did a video about Brian Thompson where I pointed out that one of the first things that this man did was push a policy that would get UnitedHealthcare to go back over all of your ER visits and determine whether or not that ER visit was actually legitimate or not. And if it wasn't, they wouldn't pay for the ER visit, which would lead to things like somebody having chest pains and then thinking to themselves, well, God, if it's not an actual heart attack, then I'm going to be charged for it. So I'm just going to wait and see if I get another symptom. I have to make sure that I'm actually in an emergency, and then they're dead. And that decision is based solely on profit motives. They just arbitrarily determine what actually gets paid and what doesn't. It's bullshit. Now, I can't necessarily fault Brian Thompson for making those decisions. He is working within a system that is broken. It is his job to go in there and, improve the profit margins of the company. That's the laissez-faire capitalist system that we have created for ourselves. And he was doing what he was tasked to do. But it does require a person who has very, very little empathy for anybody else. So when it comes to him being gunned down in the street, I am really finding it hard to uncover all of the fucks that I might be able to give about that situation. I've been looking for them and I can't find the fucks, so I don't give them. If you agree, please let me know in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And guys, that's it for now. This is the Liberal Loudmouth, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.